We're going on a magical adventure to meet a real-life storyteller. Storytellers are like superheroes who use words instead of capes. They help us remember important things and imagine exciting places. Native American storytellers have been sharing stories for a very, very long time, long before books or TVs. In this episode, we meet N. Scott Momode, a member of the Kiowa Nation. He moves from oral storytelling to the use of written words to paint pictures in our minds, telling stories about his ancestors, the land, and what it is like to be Kiowa. How can stories help us remember who we are and where we come from?
Too often, Native history is written by non-natives, and that in essence denies the Native voice in their own history. And Scott's work was a real breakthrough in the Native voice becoming the primary storyteller for Native stories and Native history.
I suppose the most important question anyone can ask of himself is, who am I? The Kiowas were a great horse people, and I got to understand that because I got to live it on my own horse. On that horse, on the back of Pecos, I was in another world. I related myself to the Kiowas of an earlier time. I can imagine that I was a Kiowa of the 19th or 18th century riding out on the plains, buffalo hunting. And I understood something about my ancestors. The imagination is the power of seeing beyond reality. And so I had the extension of my senses into an imaginary world, and a very colorful one and a very dramatic one. The imagination was the thing that enabled me to see into the farther world. Writing came to me more or less naturally because of my mother. She was a writer. And there were always books in the house, so I was introduced to literature at a fairly early age. And I announced that I was going to be a writer when I was maybe 8 years old. My father told me stories at night. He knew a great deal about the oral tradition of the Kiowas, and I made him tell them to me again and again until they were embedded in my consciousness. My grandmother was a storyteller. She knew her way around words. She never learned to read or write, but somehow she knew the good of reading and writing. She had learned how to listen and delight. She had learned that in words and in language, and there only, she could have whole and consummate being. You see, for her, words were medicine. They were magic and invisible. They came from nothing into sound and meaning. They were beyond price. They could neither be bought nor sold, and she never threw words away. She told me stories, and she taught me how to listen. I was a child, and I listened. The Kiowas had such a colorful history. Their mythology is very highly developed. It's a whole oral tradition in itself. Indians are storytellers. You know, those stories were passed on by word of mouth only. And so they were always just one generation from being gone.
Well, the oral tradition was also about knowledge, real knowledge, within our hearts and minds, and what we did and the way we lived. The old people's knowledge is your knowledge. Your knowledge is what the older people took care of. Therefore, now you have that responsibility.
Everything started out with the oral tradition. It is a part of language that makes the most of responsible telling, careful listening, and memory. I think that storytelling is one of the great inventions of man. When somebody calls me a storyteller, I am just delighted. I think I can think of no greater name, than that, storyteller.
How can stories help us remember who we are and where we come from? Want to learn more about this topic? Click the link in the description to experience our iNative activity sheet.